welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurs in Fuego. We're documenting the journey of incredible entrepreneurs, one digital footprint at a time. Justin Rohner, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm awake.
There you go. That's what you need to be. Agriscape Technologies. Why am I having such a hard time with it? Because it's edible. That's why. And you're the first interviewee.
It tastes great. Rolls right off the tongue once you get it right. But you know.
All right. So
explain
the model. Explain the model. What is Edible Gardens? What is that all?
Well, it's an elegant integration of the best of productive agriculture with the best of ornamental landscaping. So it's basically 1 yard at a time, creating and growing someone's health, through the landscape that they already are spending time and resources on. I mean, it's to really have a yard that tastes as good as it looks. I mean, that's really the ultimate goal of what we're doing and how we lead that into the world and build food economies off of this. I mean,
when I think about edible gardens, I'm thinking about I have to have like a half an acre or an acre worth of land, but that's not.
No, don't need that much at all.
True.
I mean, on my 3rd acre property, I'm in a HOA environment, so I've got a really strict HOA. They're really concerned about making sure it looks beautiful.
Right.
And in my 3rd acre, I produce enough food for about $36,000 a year in revenue just off of my food production. So on a 3rd acre,
$36,000 a year just from the food production.
Just from the food production.
Less than a third of an acre.
Yeah, less than a 3rd acre. Most of that's in the backyard, and I've got 6,000 feet of grass. I grow kids too. They grow really good on grass.
Yeah, there you
Not
go.
so much in gardens, but in the grass.
So what happens with this food? So you sell it. How do you generate that income? How is that?
So we integrate it right into the local food economy. We were donated actually a company that was founded by a local gal and called Utopian Harvest, and she had built this company to help create local food economies and be able to consolidate a lot of locally backyard grown stuff. And we were her biggest producer. And so when she moved on to other business stuff, she donated the organization actually to our organization so we can continue to provide that service to people and backyard growers, a channel to literally make money off their yard.
What kind of foods do you produce in the back?
Oh man, I've got at least 74 different types of fruit trees in my backyard.
74?
74, yeah.
Here in Phoenix, Arizona?
In Phoenix, you can grow anything here.
I'll be there.
Except for maybe raspberries. That's a tough one. We haven't really worked that one.
All right, so 74 food products that you grow in the backyard. Now,
that's just fruit trees. There's hundreds of, at least 300 different varieties of things I grow in my yard.
Is that right, Taylor? You can grow anything in the back?
You can absolutely
Taylor's a huge fan of agriculture, and she's got chickens and everything else.
Party on,
same exactly. Exactly. All right. So you grow all these things, and this is year round, and you sell the excess to this foundation, and then they go to the regular market, the farmer's market, and they sell it over there? Or
the first farmer's market was Power Ranch Farmer's Market out in Gilbert, and the model for Utopian Harvest is that everything grows within 15 miles of it grows within 15 miles of where it's sold. And so there's restaurants around that same area, there's other grocers and private grocers that it's sold through, and then me as a producer, I get a percentage of that retail sale. So it's like a consignment service. So there's not a lot of money that changes hands. It's not a heavy money required business. You can get involved by just bringing produce to the market through the Utopian Harvest model, making sure your yard is first checked off through them for food safety laws. It's like, hey, they'll check you off, they'll make sure everything's taken care of, and then you can integrate it right into the food economy through them.
That's good. Now, you, with your business, what is exactly that you guys do? Do you teach other people how to grow? What do you give classes?
We absolutely do. We have a lot of free classes online at agriscaping.com. We do have a whole mastery program for the do-it-yourselfer who wants to do it all themselves. But then we have a whole certification program that goes nationwide for professionals. So we have a professional certification for landscape designers and architects. We have an educator program for high school teachers. A lot of educators at nurseries go through our programs now. The Landscape Architects Association is now acknowledging our program, and we're accredited through their organization for CEU credits. A lot of organizations are doing that. Landscape installers, maintenance, and then a harvesting group. We created a whole new harvesting certification. So it allows anybody to take what they love in gardening and find a way to make money with it.
This would be, of course, with the idea of having the landscape that you already have existing, and instead of planting just something that will look nice and aesthetically pleasing or give it curb appeal, you plant something that you could actually either make money from or actually eat yourself.
Yeah, eat yourself. Absolutely. Every yard, as long as you have more than 1,000 square feet of space, and this is indoors or outdoors, you've got enough to pay for your utilities. You start getting a little more square footage. The reality is that it's worth about $7 a year per square foot. So if you want to do a little average, you say, okay, I've got a little bit of space I want to dedicate to agriscaping. It's worth about $7 a year per square foot in terms of value back to you. So if you've got 1,000 square feet, that's an extra $7,000 worth of value that can come back to you if you converted it to the agriscaping way of growing food.
How hard is it to convert it?
It's not hard at all. I mean, it's easy, especially for those that want to do the work themselves. You know,
Sure.
We have a lot of, again, free classes online. They can go through our mastery program. We teach them the 36 skills of agriscaping, which is the exact same fundamentals we teach all of our pros. So all of our pros go through mastery before they then go into their pro certifications. And
so like everything else is dedication and a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So you can, and how much time do you devote to your backyard then? I mean, do you have to tender to it every day? Do you have to?
Me personally, I don't spend much time on it. My kids run the yard, and they each spend
is
about. It's great. I mean,
Which is a great thing, because
Yeah.
now you're teaching the kids and incorporating the whole family to, be involved in growing something terrific.
Absolutely, and when they're involved, it's like my kids love eating vegetables. Most kids don't, but they love eating because they're coming from their own space. We specifically
Sure.
design different zones in the yard. They all have a zone to run, and their zone literally has the recipe for their favorite meals. It has all the ingredients for some of their favorite meals. So they go out there, they grow that, they share that with the family, they have fun with that, and they spend about 15 minutes a day, each of them. Age range from 5 years old up to 13, and so they all can run the yard. It's so easy a kid can do it.
Phenomenal. Now, this show is about your journey as an entrepreneur. How did you get involved with all this? What is your background? I mean, did you wake up one day and go, this sounds like a pretty good idea, or what happened?
Well, I think for all entrepreneurs, including myself, I think you wake up a few times. You have to wake up a few times with some epiphanies.
Exactly.
And my mom would say I started gardening and started doing this agriscaping thing when I was 2. And it did work. Started working professionally in landscaping when I was 9 at a golf course here locally in Arizona. And so I've been around the industry a very long time, but I never really saw it as a career profession.
Right.
I went to bioengineering and thought I was going to change the world with genetics and do all these other things. I started other businesses that did well, but always in the background I had this little landscaping company and these landscaping concepts, and always loved doing that. That's where I went to get my piece. But then in 2001, I bought my first house on 9/11. Me and my wife signed on our first house. And it was in an HOA, very strict little cul-de-sac community, and I didn't feel safe. And I didn't feel my food was safe, and so I was like, I got to find a way to grow food in this yard. And I don't want to be against the HOA. I want them to like me. I don't want them to just tolerate me.
Well, you want to feel welcome in the HOA community with everybody else.
And so that's when really agriscaping kind of spawned as not just an idea, but something I wanted to move forward with a veracity, I guess, of concept, and really develop that concept. And so I called it agriscaping at that time, just to bring that agriculture world, my history of my family, both sides of my family were in farming and agriculture and stuff 2 generations back. My dad was not. My dad was told, don't follow in my footsteps, son. Do something else.
Right.
And so it kind of skipped a generation, but it's always been around me. I've always loved to hang out there. Those were the places I loved to hang out as a kid. I was out at the farm and out at the dairy farm and out at the farmhouse. But
when did you figure out that, hey, maybe I can make a business out of this thing and dedicate yourself 100% to this venture?
Well, I had a lot of different ventures going, and in 2013, when I finally just focused all my attention on what I'm doing with agriscaping, we lost 6 members of my family that year. All my grandparents died in the same year, and so it was a really tough year, and I was not eating well. I was just really stressed out trying to deal with all the aftermath of passing of people, and just contemplating of how their lives turned out, and just looking at, the only sure thing I have in my life is I'm going to end up in a grave. That's the one sure thing. I said, well, if that's the case, I don't have much time. Up until that time, I thought I had a lot of time. But, you go through 6 funerals and have to go through their life stories.
Then you question your own mortality, and you see that there is a finality to your life, and then you figure, well, I got to do something with it.
Absolutely. And I think God knew I needed a little bit more help. And during that time, I became allergic to dirt, of all things. And I would blister up every time I touched dirt, and I had some crazy ailments and stuff. And so I had to change my health at the same time. And I says, okay, what's the one thing I can be up to that everything else becomes easier or obsolete and really makes it just a simple place I can come from? And that's where I said, agriscaping's it. That's the only place I can sit, and everything that I love can be in one place. And so I said, I'm dropping the other things, I'm just doing
it. It relaxes you, and it's also in learning this business or this culture of agriscaping, then you give that to your kids and give it to your family, to the people that you love, to people that really benefit from what you're doing. So that must be very
brings them all together.
Exactly.
It's like it brought me closer to my kids. Right. I wasn't now distant from it. I wasn't leaving my kids and my wife to go and run a business like I was doing before that. I was bringing them in.
Right.
And it just keeps bringing more of the people I love. Yeah, it's like I love this already, and so it brings people to you, and that's the easiest way to market. It's attractive.
Cool. For somebody that is starting their business, any business, what advice would you give them?
Get to the core of who you are, and trust that someone would love to pay you for the service of just being you.
That's deep. Man, Justin, man, we're going to have to bring you back and kind of maybe do a show where you actually, we have to plant something. We have to plant something. We bring some dirt right here. Yeah. You just plant something, seed or something.
Easy to do. Cool. We can show you how.
It's easy for you to say that.
Yeah, and I can teach you how. It's easy for me to teach you how. I can show you the easy way. There's plenty of hard ways to do it.
Trust me, if you can teach me to do something like that, you can teach anybody, brother.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
We're out.